Hey everybody, it's GoblinX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'm going to be playing a premiere draft of Theros Beyond Death. It has been a couple years since Theros Beyond Death launched on Arena, so quite some time since we've dived into this format. Should be a pretty fun time to hop back into it. This was a pretty sweet draft format with a lot of stuff going for it. You have the enchantment themes with Constellation triggers whenever an enchantment hits the board. You have a lot of graveyard synergy with escape cards allowing you to get recurring value out of the grave. And you had devotion cards that could help you focus on one primary color, get a lot of value off of having a lot of that color's symbols in your cards here. So our pack one is really good. We have Dreadful Apathy for sweet removal, Staggering Insight, which is great for blue-white, giving something lifelink and drawing extra cards off of it. Then we even have some solid uncommons here with Mire Triton for a graveyard strategy and Archon of Falling Stars for an enchantment strategy. But I'm just going to stick with the rare here. This seems like a very powerful, aggressive card to me, and not a bad way to start a draft. A 3-mana 3/3 Vigilance that gives another creature, it untaps another attacking creature when it attacks, and gives it power and toughness of 4/4 and indestructible. So if you curve this out with any 2-mana creature, then on turn 4 you're going to be attacking with a 3/3 Vigilance and a 4/4 indestructible, so that can really lend itself well to some very aggressive games. So pick 2 here. I don't think we have a great follow-up to that. A Triumphant Surge is alright. You need to be playing against creatures with power 4 or greater, and they need to be cards that don't have escape for this to be good. And then Omen of the Sun seems pretty similar to me. Just doesn't seem like a massively good rate for the cost, but it doesn't seem that bad. We might just take that to stick to white here. 3 mana at instant speed to get a couple humans and gain a couple life, and then you can scry 2 later in the game. It's also an instant speed way to trigger your Constellation effects, your cards that care about enchantments hitting the board. But the best card in this pack is probably the red card off color here, the Iroas's Blessing. 4 mana to give a creature +1/+1 and deal 4 damage to a creature an opponent controls when it hits the board. So it's a removal spell and a little bit of a buff in the same card. So that seems pretty strong. We could go with Iroas's Blessing here, try to get into a Boros aggro deck here. Pick 3 now. We've got Captivating Unicorn at the top end of the curve, or Laguna Band Storyteller. Put enchantment from your graveyard on top of your library and gain life equal to its mana value, so you know next turn you're going to draw that enchantment. Seems pretty good with a card like Iroas's Blessing. If whatever we enchanted has died, that blessing will be in our graveyard. Other than that, Vexing Goal seems like a solid flyer. Good card draw with Omen of the Sea. Scophos War Leader seems pretty filler. Not like a super wild pack here. We can try out the Storyteller. Again, it has been years since this set was the primary draft set, so I'm going in a little bit blind here and just trying to do our best to find our ways here. Sentinel's Eyes was pretty sweet, if I remember right. This is actually a pretty good aura because you can always escape it from the grave for pretty cheap to get it back on the board and keep that buff going. So this does seem quite powerful in an aggressive white strategy, which is what we're leaning towards right now. That being said, we see a lot of good green cards in here that make me believe green's probably pretty open currently. We have Warbriar Blessing, the best green removal in the set, and Nyx Herald, which is just a really solid card if you're getting aggressive. It's a 3/4 trample on attacks by itself. And if you have other enchanted creatures or enchantment creatures, you can buff those instead, which is great. Chainweb Arachne is solid as well. I like Warbriar Blessing or Nyx Herald here. I think better than Sentinel's Eyes. I'm going to take the Nyx Herald here and speculate on green if we push into green-white instead of red-white. But this pack will easily just be an aggressive white card. I like a lot of these. Indomitable Will is a combat trick that gets to stick around and turn into a permanent buff, which is sweet. Hero of the Pride is a great 2-drop to play those kind of tricks onto. Daybreak Chimera is just a very good flyer because it can get cheaper pretty quickly, and a 2-mana 3/3 flyer is a pretty ridiculously good deal. Favored by Iroas is also really good. This is especially good with auras like Indomitable Will, where you can get that out of nowhere and get a bunch of extra damage in, get a Constellation triggered instant speed. So this pack is sweet. I have no idea what's best at this point. Favorite of Iroas, Daybreak Chimera, Hero of the Pride, or Indomitable Will, but I'm going to go with Favorite of Iroas. It is the rarest card in that pack, being uncommon, so it's the kind of card we're going to see the least often. Daybreak Chimera is probably just the best one in there, but definitely don't know at this point. It's been long enough. I'm definitely very unsure about picks like that, where all of those cards are definitely good. It's just a question of which is best. This pack seems pretty easy. It's probably just Glorybringers. There's nothing like massively good in here. I mean, Nexus Wardens is like fine. Here the Games is like fine. We're just going to take the white card here because that's the color that we are 100% committed to. Another easy pick, we take the solid white card here, the great 2-drop of Hero of the Pride. We just get completely committed to white. Our second color is still pretty open to whatever we see. Ooh, Fateful End here, nice and late. That's going to lend itself towards me pushing into red here. But Indomitable Will is good. It's definitely really good with Favorite of Iroas. So we could still hedge our bets here and stick purely to white, but I feel like Fateful End is a signal that we can move in on red. So it's pretty late for a pretty good removal spell. Pick 8. 3 damage to any target for 3 mana and scry 1. Yeah, I'm going to take the Fateful End here. Now we see War Leader or Glory Bearers, which are both whatever. I guess I already have 1 Glory Bearers. We'll take 1 War Leader. Well, we see another War Leader, or a Thrill of Possibility can help us if we're flooding out. I'll take a Thrill of Possibility, but I won't be super excited to play it. Now we'll take a War Leader. Now we'll take a Cyclops. Definitely moving towards Boros here. Definitely looking for more aggressive 1 and 2 mana creatures. We have a ton of 4 and 5 mana stuff already for a deck that's trying to be aggressive. Not exactly where you want to start it, but I am very happy to see that Hero of the Pride nice and late. Exactly the kind of card we're looking for. This is the kind of deck that probably actually wants the 1 mana 1/2 in white as well. There's a 1 mana 1/2 that gets +1/+1 every time you play an enchantment. Oh no. One of the biggest bombs in the entire format. Kiora bests the Sea God. 7 mana to create an 8/8 hexproof. That already is going to win a lot of games. But the turn after, tap all of your opponent's permanents and they don't untap next turn. And then turn after that, gain control of whatever permanent they control that you want and untap it. This card is absolutely ridiculous. What do our colors look like? We have 6 white cards, 6 red cards. So we just become blue-white or blue-red here, taking Kiora Best the Sea God. On-color, Indomitable Will is great. Sunmane Pegasus is probably solid too, but Indomitable Will would be the on-color pick. I mean, Kiora Best the Sea God, it's just like completely unbeatable. You have to outrace that card, and this format isn't that fast. So Kiora Best the Sea God is just incredibly, incredibly hard to beat. Because if you don't outrace it, then there's nothing you can do. Because even if you blow up the enchantment itself, you've spent a card, not even to stop it. Because you still have to deal with the 8/8 hexproof. So you spent a card just to stop the extra abilities on it. I don't know. I'm going to take Kiora Best the Sea God here, and we'll see if we get to push into blue somehow. It would be a little difficult, but with a card that powerful, like, it's got to be worth it. So for red, we see Incendiary Oracle and Enax, both which are incredible cards for aggressive strategies. In white, we see Transcendent Envoy, which is very good with Iroas' Blessing. Just very good with auras in general. In blue, we see Omen of the Sea. Pretty good when you have a big bomb you're trying to dig towards, because this is going to scry 4 cards and draw a card total. So kind of like Omen of the Sea here, trying to just push in on blue, even though we do see good red and white cards. If I didn't take Kiora Best the Sea God, I'd probably just take like a Nax here, I guess. How greedy do I get here? Because a deck with a Nax and Tyrannica is going to be massively aggressive. That's going to be a scary, scary deck. But you know what? I'm really feeling it here with this Kiora Best the Sea God. I'm going to get real greedy and really pushing on this blue. Wow, we see Drag to the Underworld in black, which is a fantastic card. We see another Favorite of Iroas in white, Omen of the Forge in red, and Deny the Divine in blue. Just good stuff all over the place again. You know, the only color really missing out in this pack is green. Get super greedy. I'm just taking every single blue card that'll make it into a solid deck here. Pack 2, I'm just going to focus on making sure I have a blue half to the deck to consistently cast Kiora Best the Sea God, and then we'll just see what happens in pack 3, I guess. Again, we could be a super consistent, solid Boros aggro deck if I just take cards like Daybreak Chimera, but when you got Kiora Best the Sea God, that's just it's no fun. because Cure Best of Sea God's so much cooler than just being Boros aggro. Be blue, big stuff. Alright, so the red card here is the best. Iroas's Blessing for blue-red. Careless Celebrant is actually really good too. It's very, very good at stopping your creatures, your opposing creatures from attacking you, because this blocks alone as basically a 4/1. And if they just have multiple 2 toughness creatures, it's really hard to attack into because you trade with one of them, and when this dies, kill another one. So Celebrant actually might be better than Iroas's Blessing here, especially because we're not going to have a lot of cheap stuff if we go red-blue. Weirdly enough, I'm going to take Careless Celebrant over Iroas's Blessing, even though Iroas's Blessing is just very solid, very consistent card. Now, Wrapping Flames is only for aggro. Revelers still just doesn't feel quite main deckable to me. I don't love the Mystic, I don't love the Sea Guard, but it does block well, potentially. I guess we could take Altar of the Pantheon for ramping into Cure Best's the Sea God. Yeah, I really don't know what to do here. We could also just draw a card with Soul Guide Lantern. I mean, that's not the end of the world. It's looking like we're trying to push to red-blue. Yeah, because we're seeing Iroas's Blessings just like pick 5,000. So, and it's only pick 7, but still, that card is very good. We need to get some like 2-mana 1/3s is what we want in this deck now. Just cheap little blockers, really. The problem is we're seeing so many like 4 and 5 mana cards on color like Sea Guard, War Leader. Honestly, we're probably just a deck that's digging to Cure Best the Sea God for dear life. So I'm going to take another Thrill of Possibility over a second 4 mana 4/5 or whatever there. Wow, late Indomitable Will if we were still going that direction. Don't think we're going to have a lot of creatures that can fight really well with Triumphant Axe, and I really don't want to pick up too many high mana cost cards when I have like the Super Bomb 7-drop, so I think I'm going for Eidolon of Philosophy here, just to have a cheap creature to potentially block with. Yeah, red is wide open, so I'm super glad I went red over white, even though white does not seem particularly unopen. I kind of want Incendiary Oracle over an Axe because it just blocks better, but an Axe is threatening. It is very threatening. I'm going to take an Axe here. Super scary card. Omen of the Forge, pick 11. Tell me red is open without telling me red is open. Arena Trickster can do things in this color pair. This is the color pair designed around it. You cast a bunch of stuff at instant speed to get extra counters on it. Even then, though, it's pretty slow. Don't really get your mana's worth until you've cast at least one more card alongside it. It's not the most consistent, greatest card ever. If this card could tap for mana for enchantments or artifacts, I would slam it into this deck to cast Cure Best the Sea God, but it only makes mana for artifacts. It does help your equipment as well, but I have 0 artifacts right now. We're very unlikely to get a bunch of equipment here. I actually like Entrancing Liar a lot for this kind of deck, because again, I'm really just trying to get to Cure Best the Sea God, but it's also just a solid card for pretty much any deck in this format. The format is slow enough that this plays well. Sure, it's a lot of mana. You're playing 3 mana to play this, and then you're paying basically however much the creature your opponent cost casts. You have to spend X mana where X is the power of your opposing creature, so usually you're spending as much mana as the cost of the creature that you're tapping down, but the fact that it's a really flexible card where you can keep tapping down different things over time is pretty nice. It's pretty worth it, in my opinion. Underworld Breach is not, because that's incredibly expensive. You get 1 turn where you can cast your spells out of your graveyard. It's Yawgmoth's Will, basically, but you have to exile extra cards to do it. So you have to wait longer, and the only times where Yawgmoth's Will is particularly insane is when you have a bunch of rituals, so you know you can cast like your whole grave. It's not really good in just regular limited, so I don't love Underworld Breach. Naiad of Hidden Coves could be okay, because we are going to do a lot of stuff in opposing turns. We've got a lot of Thrill of Possibilities that could only cost 1 mana if we have Naiad down. There's also Underworld Ragehound. I'm going to take Underworld Ragehound. I just don't have a lot of 2 mana creatures right now, so I want to really fill out that slot. And for similar reasons, I could take Incendiary Oracle here. I would definitely take it over the Cyclops or the Eidolon, but I might want Whirlwind Denial more. This seems like a fine counterspell. Not like massively good though. We'll just take the Incendiary Oracle here. Ooh, another Witness of Tomorrows is awesome, but there's also one of Blue's better counterspells, Deny the Divine. The reason this is so good in this format is the biggest threats are all creatures or enchantments, and exiling is very important because you're stopping any of their escape abilities or things that let them return things from grave to hand. So Witness of Tomorrows versus Deny Divine is actually a pretty hard choice, But I think I'm going to take Deny the Divine and be more controlling here. Witness of Tomorrow's is great, though. It's almost Air Elemental in terms of power toughness, and you get the flexibility of scrying. It is a good card, but I'm going to take Deny the Divine. This pack looks like a whole lot of nothing. I guess there's a Flummoxed Cyclops again, a third War Leader. Rapid Flames is only for aggro, and we are definitely not aggro. Could try to Sweet Oblivion mill somebody out of the game if the game goes really long, but if the game goes really long, we're going to win any game we draw Curibus. It's the Sea God, so I don't think we need to try to mend the game with mill. So we'll just take the dorky Cyclops there. Now we can take a Whirlwind Denial over not much else. Ooh, another Omen of the Forge. That is awesome. Nice early game removal spell that also scries us towards our bomb. Seems like exactly what we want. How many creatures do we have? We have 13. I'd like a little more creatures so that our Iroas's Blessings are more consistent. So I'm going to take like Stampede Rider here just to put more creatures in the deck, even though we don't have a lot of power 4 creatures to make this big. It still gives us another card that we can put Iroas's Blessing onto, because we can't use this as a removal spell unless we have a creature on board, so a bit risky in that sense. I already have double Thrill of Possibility. I don't think I want a third, because I have got multiple ways to scry now as well. So I'm going to take just a third Cyclops, I guess. Well, now we can take a third Thrill of Possibility, because there's no way I'm playing Satyr's Cunning, just making 1/1s that can't block. Nor am I going to play Escape Velocity. This actually doesn't seem that bad. Similar to the Sentinel's whatever, Sentinel's Eyes, but I don't think this is the deck for it. I already have triple Cyclops. I guess I'll take another Eidolon, but not super pumped about that or anything. Just exists to maybe chump block, and if it doesn't need to chump block, we get to draw some cards off of it very late in the game. And it seems very dorky. It's probably not very good, but we are very low on 1 and 2 mana creatures here. I mean, I guess we have double Omen of the Forge to try to fill that role. Rather than playing a 2 mana creature to block and trade with, we can just play a 2 mana removal spell to kill their early game card. So we're kind of the blue-red flash deck a little bit. We didn't really get any of the synergies or payoffs for it, for the blue-red flash. But we kind of just turned into this sort of counter burn strategy, just trying to control the game until we can drop a Curibus the Sea God. It's going to be interesting. I think we definitely would have had a consistent and powerful Boros aggro deck in the seat that we ended up in this draft pod. But this way I get to cast Curibus the Sea God, which is definitely strong. So I think our Boros deck probably would have been a little bit better, but I think I'll have a little more fun with this deck. Casting some Mega Bombs here. Well, casting 1 Mega Bomb here. So we get to cut 8 cards out of this deck. I already have 2 counterspells even if I cut Whirlwind Denial. I'm definitely not cutting Curibus the Sea God, Iroas's Blessing, Deny the Divine, Fateful End, or Entrancing Liar. Not going to cut any of the Omens either, so Thrill of Possibilities become a possible cut. And that brings us 4 cards down, and then we still need to cut 4 more. So it'll be a 13 creature deck, a bit low, but we can deal with that. Probably cut these 1-drops actually, and then we need to cut 2 more. We are really relying on Omen of the Forges for the early game for against the aggro decks. This is a slower format though. There's a lot of mid-range and some even just control late game decks like our deck here. I don't love triple War Leader. I might even just cut 2 of those. Arena's Trickster actually does look okay in here because we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 instants, which is like okay. Irreverent Reveler seems very bad in here though. Just destroy an artifact because we don't care about the 2/2 haste. That's super sideboard. Yeah, we definitely ended up with some very filler stuff in order to completely be in blue-red here. But we have the exact opposite of filler to balance it out. Just a Mega Bomb like Curibus the Sea God. I think this is probably the build we go with. I could even see cutting like Cutting a Cyclops and a War Leader to put the 1 mana 1/2s back in. Just to have more blockers. Very bad blockers, though. Your average creature is like a 2 mana 2/2. They're just not going to do anything important there. I could even see dropping like a Cyclops or a Sea Guard to put one of our Thrill of Possibilities in here. Maybe we even go for an 18th land, because our most important card is our 7 mana card. And our curve's pretty high even without it. A lot of 4s and 5s. Average 3.5. Yeah, maybe we actually add a land here. Drop a Cyclops or a War Leader for a land. I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to drop a Cyclops and throw in another island here. It should probably be another mountain. What does our color balance look like? 15 red, 6 blue. Yeah, I guess it should be another mountain. Still have 8 blue sources this way. This is a weird deck. Alright, so here's a final look at the deck. We pivoted into blue-red after a pack 2 pick 1 Cure Best's the Sea God, and as such we've got some pretty filler creatures in this deck, but we have really solid removal and counter spells like Iroas's Blessing, Omen of the Forges, Deny the Divines, and Fateful End, and Entrancing Liar. A lot of good spells. Our creatures are filler, but our non-creature cards are all fantastic, and we're just hoping that our filler creatures are enough to either put pressure on our opponent or keep blocking to make the game last enough, long enough for us to draw into our Cure Best the Sea God to try to just end every game with that ridiculous mega bomb. So that's a look at the deck, and let's get into the gameplay. Here we are, game 1. I am going to keep this hand. We do have a big issue here where we need to hit another mountain, but even if we don't, we can start countering their creatures turn 3 and onward. But we are going to be taking a beating from whatever 2-3 mana card they play here because we're on the draw, unfortunately. This hand would be a lot better on the play, just being able to have that Deny the Divine up by the time they start casting 3 mana spells. So we are fingers crossed a little bit here, because this hand does get really punished by a curve out from our opponents. And now we can hold up Fateful End, which is wonderful, because if they don't cast a creature we need to counter, then we can shoot the Celebrant. If they do cast a creature we need to counter, then we'll just counter that instead. I could have countered Omen of the Hunt with our Deny the Divine, but then I'd be tapped out, wouldn't be able to counter a creature during their turn, so I think that's probably not worth it. So we'll take the 2 here. Fateful End during the end step if they don't play a creature. If they do, we counter that. So goodbye to that creature. We've got the second red source now for a Nax, but I'd honestly rather just hold up Deny the Divine, because again, we have that backup plan with Fateful End where if we don't have to counter something, we can just get rid of the Celebrant and still do something solid with our turn. We also scry during the process, dig towards Cure Best's the Sea God. I would rather Fateful End that than deny it, I think. And so I can hold on to the Deny the Divine for something else. Now we scry. There's Cure Best the Sea God, keep that on top. Now we're just trying to make it to 7 mana. So now's where things get awkward, because I used my instant speed removal. I have to choose between dropping a creature that's big enough to block Celebrant or holding up my counter spell and just taking 2 this turn. If I draw land, the next turn I can play a creature and hold up the counterspell, so I think we play the creature here. Either creature that I play will trade 1/1 for Celebrant because of its death trigger, though, which isn't an issue. I don't know, we're at 14 still. We can take 7 more hits from Celebrant if I just keep their next massive threat off the board. Alright, yeah, that's a pretty big threat, so glad I held on to the counterspell there. Alright, so now we just start running things out. I'm probably going to hold on to Celebrant here, because as soon as we hit a land, we can play Celebrant and Blessing in the same turn. This turn we can only cast 1 spell either way, so I guess I'm just going to play a Nax, because I'd rather trade a Nax into the Celebrant than trade Cyclops into it, because at least we get a 1/1 out of this when it trades. The 1/1 can't block, so it doesn't help us very much, but it's still better than getting nothing out of the trade. Alright, so they're going to scry 2 with Omen of the Hunt here. Set up their draw step. Both to the tops. They had just straight gas on top of the library, and they'll pass turn. We do hit the 6th mana, which I'm very happy about. Now we can even threaten to get aggressive off of Celebrant Blessing here. If I go Celebrant Blessing, though, then their Celebrant kills my Celebrant. That actually does seem pretty bad. So I can play Cyclops, though, and then attack with an axe here, because we'll still have blockers up that are pretty good. They can trade the Celebrant into an axe if they want, or they can just let it through. But they can't kill both of our creatures off of Celebrant's ability. So they're going to go ahead and kill an axe here. I'm going to go ahead and drop our Careless Celebrant now that we don't have to worry about it dying to theirs. Arena Trickster is the play, just a 3/3 here. Does get a +1/+1 counter if they cast a spell during our turn. We've got Omen of the Sea here to make sure we hit the 7th mana we need for Cure Our Best the Sea God. So do we Iroas's Blessing and then just Omen of the Sea during their end step to hit that 7th land? Seems fine to me. Put Iroas's Blessing on the 1/1, so if they have a removal spell in hand, they don't get a massive 2-for-1 here. I guess because they're green-red, I should have put this on the Cyclops. Yeah, that was an issue. Should have put this on the Cyclops because all their removal is going to be damage-based. It's not going to say just destroy target creature. That's pretty rough, but Cure Best the Sea God is going to make up for any punts we do this game. There's no way we lose. But that was a pretty big punt. Well, I wouldn't say punt, because it's not like we knew exactly what was in their hand, but I wasn't thinking correctly. Based on the kind of removal they would have in a red-green deck, we should have put the Blessing on the Cyclops. Generally, I would be like putting Blessing on my weakest creature. That way, if they had destroy target creature or exile target creature, they don't get a massive 2-for-1 where they kill our best card and stop our removal. But because I'm playing against green-red, where all of their removal is just going to damage something, if we use Iroas's Blessing on our biggest creature, then it's less likely that their removal does enough damage to counter our removal spell. So, was not thinking that through straight. If I was playing against black-white, I did the right thing, but playing against red-green, need to throw that on the highest toughness creature we've got. Alright, Omen of the Sea, there's lands, that's what I want. Pick up one of them, drop the Sea God, close out this game. Even if they have the enchantment removal, which they definitely could in green, we've still got an 8/8 hexproof to finish things off here. Alright, Cure Our Best the Sea God, going to tap their whole board for a turn. Attack with everybody because they're locked out. And then next turn we get to steal their biggest card. Another Omen of the Forge here is going to clear out our Careless Celebrant. One thing that's worth noting with Omen of the Seas, if you really need to get max value at all times with them, you can put a stop during your upkeep, so you can sacrifice it before you draw a card. So because we were tapped out last turn for Cure Our Best the Sea God, it might have been worth it to just scry with Omen of the Sea in our upkeep. Set that stop there. But I'm not super worried here. Yeah, we have lethal on board. I can just do it now. Definitely playing a little sloppy. Alright, I'll keep an Incendiary Oracle, actually. Seems solid to me. Alright, let us find out if they have an instant to save them here. They do not, so that'll be game. was going to say, the only way they can really survive here is if they have an instant that untaps their creature, and even then, they still just get to chump block with it, unless it's like a big combat trick that untaps and buffs it. And then we finish it off with Omen of the Forge. So Cure Best the Sea God going to win us that game pretty handily. Won the game through a couple misplays there. Just showing off how ridiculous that card is. We'll start off this draft 1-0. Here we are, game 2. Pretty slow and controlling hand, but that's what this deck is trying to do here. Couple ways to remove things, and a nice just 2/5 body leader in the game. Hero of the Pride from our opponent. With double Omen of the Forge at the ready, I'd honestly probably rather throw one of these at the hero than try to block with an Incendiary Oracle, because Hero of the Pride is the kind of card that, because it has that trigger whenever you target it with a spell, it's the kind of card that makes you want to play a lot of combat tricks and stuff that could really get us if we just try to block with Oracle. So I'll just drop an Omen of the Forge here since I got multiples. Do I do the same here against the Envoy? It's only a 1/2. We don't have to worry about it till they start putting auras onto it. We are going to have a 4/4 reach soon enough. Honestly, I think I want to just kill it, but the thought of playing an Omen of the Forge in response to an aura does make me pretty excited here, so might get a bit greedy. Try to just do that leader. They attack with 2 or more creatures. This creature can't block, so it can't block if they have double flyers sending in. Just take 3 next turn. I think I'm okay with that, because in the interest of making the most of my mana, we can go 3-drop, 2-drop. I also misplayed with the Oracle there. I probably should have attacked in. Yeah, definitely, because we had a good way to use the mana if they chose to trade with Pegasus. Because then we would have spent 2 to buff the Oracle, and we'd still have the 2 mana up for Omen of the Forge. So I should have attacked in. I would have gotten that 2 damage, and it's not like this is going to block at all. Alright, 5 mana from our opponent, another Sunmane Pegasus. Well, this is a problem. A lot of flyers from our opponent. They can get Vigilance and Lifelink as well. This is a very big problem. So, with Entrancing Lyre, we can tap down one of the 2 power creatures. Keep it locked down. I guess I have to attack with Cyclops this turn at least, because we can't... Interesting. Do they have the 1 mana trick here? No, we just get the trade. Cool. We have to attack with it this turn at least, because we're not going to be able to stop them from attacking back with 2 creatures and shutting off its ability to block anyway. I think that was again with Oracle's ability. I probably should have just, before I played anything, just attacked in, but worked out either way. That is how I would do that turn. So I would have paid for that and cast the Lyre. 1 with the stars, shut off the Cyclops. It still triggers even though it's not a creature. It's just an enchantment here. Okay. So now we're dying to Hero of the Pride, but that kills us pretty slowly. It's actually probably the best in terms of life total to shut down Pegasus and cast Seaguard. Because we're only taking 1 damage a turn this way. I was thinking about going Lyre and then Omen of the Forge to kill the other flyer. But this stops more damage. Heliod's Pilgrim with Transcendent Envoy on board, so Dreadful Apathy only cost them 2 mana to shut down Seaguard. Rough. Staggering Insight is the choice though, and that brings it out of range of Omen of the Forge. Well, we get maximum punished for playing the way we did. Now we drew into Iroas's Blessing though, which is good. But drawing into Iros' Blessing actually punishes us for untapping the Lyre, because I was going to untap the Lyre and then lock down the Envoy. But now that I can just kill the Envoy, I probably just want to kill the Envoy and just keep the Pegasus tapped down. So, awkward draw. But obviously without the information that we were drawing into a spell that could kill that creature, we needed to lock down the creature that would draw them cards rather than the creature that won't. Stern Dismissal, bounce our Seaguard, so we take 3 this turn, then we can just recast it. Nice little lightning bolt from our opponents. Ooh, Witness of Tomorrows. That card is super good. They want to bounce into Counterspell was their plan? Yes, it was. Rough. Shoot the hero. Hope for no combat trick from opponent. They have something in hand. Maybe a Counterspell. That is what I would hope. Now opponent's just a runner for good stuff. No, it's Omen of the Sea, scry 2, draw 1. Could draw them into the combat trick they need. It did not, so they scry them both to the bottom. Draw blind here. See what they got. Nothing. Definitely not untapping the Lyre. The question is if I want to scry here, because I can scry and still cast Seaguard. I think I'd rather just scry after I cast Seaguard, because I could draw Curabest the Sea God, and play it here. So we drew Arena Trickster instead. I think I would still rather play Seaguard. Okay, so it's on the board. Now we're going to just start scrying in their end step. Again, I don't want to scry during my upkeep, but I'm still going to set the trigger there just in case. So I have that option open. Okay, so we'll scry here. Cyclops and a mountain. Definitely don't need the mountain. Cyclops is fine. I'll take it. At 7 life here, I want to play it pretty safe, I think. And I don't actually want to attack. Even with a second blocker out. If I have 3 blockers against their 1 attacker, then I guess I'll start attacking, but not right now. Alright, final scry 2. What do we have? Island, get out of here. See what we draw in our turn. There's Curabest the Sea God. They're fully untapped though, and they've played multiple counterspells already. Well, they played 1 counterspell already. Very sketched out here. I think I'm going to attack with Cyclops, see if I can get them to spend some mana on something here. Threnody Singer. They still have 4 mana up, though, which could easily counter Curabest the Sea God. Just go for it here. I mean, we are going to start taking 1 a turn every turn from this flyer. And they didn't counter Cyclops last turn. They didn't play Singer last turn. So they probably drew into the Singer, like right now. Because I think they would have just ran it out last turn so they could start chipping away, because I'm at 7. They know they get to keep hitting me. They definitely would have countered Cyclops last turn if they had the counter spell. So I'm going to go for Cure Best the Sea God. Because unless they top deck the counter spell last turn, we should be good. Okay, and they don't have the counter spell, so Cure Best the Sea God probably gets there, but we could still die to this flyer. They definitely have auras in their deck to buff that up. We are about to tap their whole field, though, because this card is nuts. Attack all. Should have untapped the Liar just in case, since the Pexis is going to be tapped down either way. Play the War Leader, pass turn. Flicker of Fate. I definitely should have let the Liar untap, because I could have tapped that down here. To get a life gain swing in. All right, well, another game I played pretty poorly. I'm definitely very rusty. I have not played Magic in a couple weeks. Which you may have seen on the channel. I was pretty ill, but we're back in full swing for Theros, so this is also part of the reason that I drafted Cure Best the Sea God so highly and really went after this kind of deck, is because when we play a deck that is so focused on scrying and drawing into just this one Mega Bomb, that card is just so powerful that it can make up for a lot of minor misplays, which is happening a lot in these games. I'm misplaying a lot, but still getting there just because of how good Cure Best the Sea God is, so you have to play somewhat tight to play a really good aggro deck well, and I don't think I could play super tight right now. I'm kind of getting back into the swing of things with Magic, so choosing to draft the strategy that will lend itself the best to some loose plays, because I'm definitely very rusty on Magic and certainly very rusty on the format. So anyways, we are 2-0 now in round 3. Pretty good starting hand. It's got our one card that we're really leaning into, the Cure Best the Sea God. We just got to make it to our 7 mana, as you've seen before. If we can make it there, we can very much close out a game. Don't really want to Irosa's Blessing here, so I'm just going to drop a Sea Guard. Just keep our blockers all up. We've got 6 mana, 4 on board and 2 in hand, so we only need to draw 1 more land to get towards this Cure Best the Sea God now. Lamphead of Death's Vigil has come on out. There's the 7th mana we need. Just need to grind this game out. Portent of Betrayal, very powerful with Lamphead of Death's Vigil, because that is a 1 mana way to sacrifice our creature against us here. Super rough. I think I'm still holding on to Celebrant. If I trade the Celebrant off, I don't have any creatures out to cast Irosa's Blessing on. Maybe I should have Irosa's Blessing the Lampad, but my thing there is that they still have a sack outlet. It would be Soul Reaper of Mogus, but that is a much more expensive sack outlet. They'd have to wait till they have 7 mana to seal something and sacrifice it. Okay, I mean, I've got nothing else to do here. Get the Lampad off the board now, or do we get the Soul Reaper off the board? I think I actually get the Soul Reaper off the board. No second portent, fingers crossed. Omen of the Forge. Force the trade here for the Piper. If they don't need that extra mana, they could have sacked in response, but they're probably saving it to scry with Omen of the Forge, since that does cost 3. Or not scryed in response, they could have gained the life off Lamp out of Death's Vigil in response. So they're black red, so we know they can't do anything about this, so we just drop it. The only thing they could have really done about this would be make us discard it from our hand. But, I mean, once it's on the stack, they can't counter it. Once it's on the board, they can't kill it. Best the Sea God's going to put in some work here. Doesn't like immediately end the game this time, I think, because we are pretty low and they have life drain going on. So they can still, yeah, like they're doing here, they can still go wide and try to just crush us really quickly before we kill them. But the second ability is going to do all that it can to make sure we're fine. But I mean, they can next turn, they can port into Betrayal. Steal our Scophos War Leader. Do a lot of damage to us. Blood Aspirants. Another sacrifice card, and Scavenging Harpy is the play. Don't think that we kill them next turn, but we still get in pretty hard. Yeah, and they're just going to scoop them up here. So we get to steal one of their creatures permanently next turn, which would probably be 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Actually, yeah, we do get to kill them because we can steal the Harpy, and then we can sacrifice the Harpy to the War Leader, which makes the War Leader a 5-power menace creature, which means they can't block it. I guess they can still chump. Yeah, they can still chump. Then they crack back for 3, 4, 5, 6. We go down to 7. They have 4 creatures on board. They could sack 4 to drain 4, 10 to 10. Yeah, they probably get in a position where they have to keep chumping. But I think they might have had a shot there because of Lamp of Death's Vigil. Like every turn they can just go 0-1 on the 8-8, drain us for a life, escape this from the grave, block, drain a life. They had a shot there, pretty low one though. I don't put it past them that the mulligan's fine there. 3-0 it'll be though. Cure Best the Sea God, 3 for 3 on victories. I'm gonna guess we're gonna win every game where we cast it and lose every game where we don't. So this hand's pretty low on mana for what we would like in our deck, because we do have, again, the massive 7-drop we're trying to get to. But for what we've drawn in the hand, I mean, we have multiple 2-drops already. We have 18 lands, so there's 16 lands still in the deck. So it shouldn't be too hard for us to hit the mana to drop these 4 or 5 mana cards here. But yeah, we're on the play with some of our most aggressive cards, so a low land count in this hand isn't the biggest deal ever. See what we can do with it. Ooh, a Nax. That'll be super nasty if we hit another red source here. I'm going to go for Celebrant first, because I think it's going to be a long time before I actually want to spend mana into Incendiary Oracle. Because obviously next turn I'd want to play another 2-drop. The turn after that I'd want to play an Nax, ideally. And as soon as we get 4 mana, we're just going to want to dump those out. That being said, Incendiary Oracle does attack into an opposing 2-2 a lot better than Celebrant does, because we lose a lot of value by not having Celebrant shoot something. Whereas Oracle, if an Oracle trades for a 2-2, it's not a bad deal, because we're still exiling their card from grave. Alright, well, their card is just a Celebrant of its own, and we are 100% okay with a Celebrant for Celebrant trade. So we'll just send it in. And then Incendiary Oracle is really good against the Celebrant as well. So we can actually put it on the board, even though we have 2 cards on the board with 2 or less toughness, which is scary against the Celebrant, because then the Celebrant could blow up both of them. With Incendiary Oracle's ability, we get to exile it instead of it dying, so we can still 1-for-1 trade. If they attack in here, we just block with Oracle and they both die, but our Celebrant lives. So, yeah, we can go Celebrant for Celebrant, we can go Oracle for Celebrant. 1-for-1's all over. Nax hardened in the Forge. It is the mirror match, but they're on red-white instead of red-blue. Ooh, easy trade here. It's going to be the fastest trade of my life. We get to exile that from grave so they don't deal 2 damage, and they don't create a 1-1. Now we just drop an Entrancing Lyre and don't do anything with it. Yeah, and we hold up our Celebrant to block an axe. Because if I attack in, I'm going to deal 2 damage to them, then they're going to play some creature and deal like 3 or 4 damage to me. It doesn't seem like a very good deal. How does this work against a creature that has changing power? Target creature with power X or less, tap it and it doesn't untap as long as it remains tapped. So if I tap down an axe while it's still 2 power, and then an axe becomes like 5 power on a later turn, it'll just stay tapped down under the Lyre, so that's pretty good. Alright, I will attempt to take this trade. We'll see if they have a combat trick to trade into the Celebrant instead. The +1/+2 spell. Pretty good. Indomitable Will. Actually wouldn't be the end of the world though, because if they Indomitable Will on an axe to make it a 3/5, that'll still cost most of their mana, so hopefully they don't get to cast another creature this turn, and then I can just Lyre down an axe. It's a 2-for-1 there. Okay, it's Infuriate. That's worse for us. Because that's just a 1-for-1. They trade Infuriate for the Celebrant. Didn't have the mana to play another card afterwards though, so that's nice. I can Entrance and Nax here for 2 mana or play a big card. This might be wrong, but I really want to Entrance and Nax while it's small enough to easily entrance. And part of why I'm doing this is because I am so focused on Cure-Best the Sea God. Our hand does look pretty aggressive, and we're at 20 life against their 18, so it might be better to just keep playing our biggest creature every turn. Then I have a Dreamstalker Manticore. Just play a 4/5 against the 4/2. They have 6 cards in hand and only 3 lands on the board, so those are all non-land cards. I doubt they're just holding on to lands and choosing not to make their land drops here. Combat trick to kill War Leader, what's the worst it could be? Infuriate would be fine by me. Lots of stuff would be fine by me. This has gotta be +2/+0 first strike enchantment. It'd still be a 1-for-1, it would cost all of their mana. I guess it wouldn't be a 1-for-1 because they get to keep the buff of +2/+0 on the Manticore, but they don't keep the first strike, do they? Aspect of Lamprey or whatever it's called. I gotta look it up. Aspect of Mongoose? No, that's the green one. Aspect of... God dang it, now I need to go to Scryfall. Scryfall, aspect of... Aspect of Manticore, +2/+0 first strike for the turn. It doesn't keep first strike, so it'll just be a 6/2, which is fine. So it's kind of a 1-for-1. They spend all their mana to give first strike for the turn, and then they just have a 6/2. Oh, Karametra's Blessing. I wasn't thinking about the white spells. I was thinking about the red ones, but they're double red up. 1-for-1 it is. Like an axe here. Get our little satyr out of the trade. 4 mana untapped now. They've got 5 cards in hand. That must open up a world of possibilities here because they are in the think tank. Under the hourglass. Transcendent Envoy is the play. Got our Flummox Cyclops to attempt to block that. Sentinel's Eyes, that makes it big enough that we don't take the trade here. We take 5, take the trade next turn. I'm not going to have the mana to put this on something else because I'm going to have to spend 4 to cast a card. So play the Cyclops. It probably isn't blocking here, but it's got enough power to threaten to block well once we've dealt with the Manticore. So now, thanks to the red symbol, a Nax trades 1-for-1 into Manticore, and then Cyclops can maybe block the Envoy in the future. Probably should have played Trickster. It's pretty likely because they're starting to actually hit lands now that they just keep running out a creature each turn, in which case we're just never blocking with Cyclops. Iros' Blessing is the play. Fortunately for us, they choose to kill the Cyclops instead of an Axe. If they just killed a Nax there, then we would never be blocking with the Cyclops anyway. I mean, I guess we're not blocking with an Axe this turn now. But again, the Cyclops just literally couldn't block, so I think this is better for us. So now we have 2 ways to block Dreamstalker Manticore. There's more flyers from our opponent. Probably just going to die to those evasive threats. Yeah, I'll shut down the Chimera this turn. We have 2 creatures. We can trade 1 into an Axe and trade 1 into the Dreamstalker Manticore. So we're taking 2 in the sky here down to 4. Witness of Tomorrow's big flyer. Got 8 mana. We already have enough mana to scry if we just play this land. Alright. So we have a big flyer, and now we start trying to scry into our outs, our Cure Best to Sea God style plays. And I guess it's kind of our one out, our one Cure Best the Sea God. But we can start digging. At 4 life here, our opponent actually threatens a lot of damage if they just attack all this turn. Yeah, that's not good. I mean, we can kill all these creatures, but then obviously we don't have a flyer anymore, so we start taking 2 in the sky again, plus an Axe is going to pop off here. Just going to give them enough satyrs to just kill us next turn. I don't think we can win even if we hit Cure Best the Sea God, actually. We're forced into blocking all 3 of these, otherwise they double pump and kill us. And every single block we make is going to be a trade. So yeah, we're actually just dead no matter what we draw. If we block like this, we force them to double pump Oracle still to kill our Witness of Tomorrows. So soaks up the most of their mana. Actually just gonna die to the Satyr tokens. We have plenty of Satyr tokens of our own, but they can't block. which means the attacker gets the way better deal here with 6 1/1s to attack with. We would need a Wrath effect in our deck, which we don't have. There is one in the format. There's like a 4 mana deal 4 to all creatures. It's like Storm God's Wrath or something. Deny the Divine, drawn to a counterspell. Definitely not going to do it for us. 3 and 1. And we have won every game with Kuribest the Sea God and lost every game without it. Round 5 now, opponents on the play. Definitely going to keep this hand. We've got a Rage Hound to get things started. Which is an easy trade. This is not going to be a good matchup. Anybody playing a Pious Wayfarer is trying to be very aggressive. If they get the curve out, they get the curve out. Not much we can do there. We've got Cure Beats the Sea God coming up. Double Deny the Divine for their next 2 plays. We need to hit our lands, though. We're at 3 right now. Yeah, that's double Pious Wayfarer. Into Dreadful Apathy, yeah. I mean, that's kind of getting there. Omen of the Sea. We can do that if we don't need to counter something. If we do, we'll have to Deny the Divine. Get that out of here. That's going to be way too much buffs with Pious Wayfarers. Not about that life. Take 3. Take 3 it is. Still hit a land here. Very good. Now we're on Omen of the Sea or Flummox Cyclops. Omen of the Sea or Deny the Divine, sorry. Flummox Cyclops is definitely not the play because it can't block if they attack with 2 or more creatures anyway. So it won't be blocking for us. Alright, attack for 3 again, down to 10. Land into nothing. Alright, Omen of the Sea. Let's get us some mana. These are not mana. Careless Celebrant is actually phenomenal here, though. It's only really good if we hit another land, so we can cast and still hold up to a counter spell. But I'm going to do it anyway. Because it's so good against multiple little attacking creatures like these. Awesome, and we hit the land. That's so good. Now we get to drop Careless Celebrants. We Deny the Divine if we need to, and if we don't, we get to scry off of Omen of the Sea. Alright, they're going to go ahead and exile the Underworld Rage Hound now. Favorite or Herois? Yeah, I'm not super pumped about that. Wow, another Dreadful Apathy for after the Favored. Pretty dang good here. We take 4, and now Careless Celebrant can't trade for 2 creatures. We're at 6, facing 3 damage each turn, which means we die in 2 turns, which means we have to kind of hit land. Even if we hit land, we just die because they have multiple attackers here. So we actually have to start jamming down blockers. So I kind of have to play War Leader this turn, which means we can't really afford to scry off Omen of the Sea. We hit a Nax. If I play War Leader this turn and I hit a land next turn, I can drop a Nax and scry. Which means I could actually scry first in our upkeep to guarantee that we're hitting a land and use that land to cast an axe. 3rd Pious Wayfarer. Dreadful Apathy away the blocker. Alright, use the Omen of the Sea to guarantee the land for an axe. That also helps get towards Kuribest the Sea God. Oh, but Omen of the Forge and Incendiary Oracle? Got 4 attackers. Now, if they play like a single enchantment, we're just dead. Even if we have Omen of the Forge. So, I mean, I think we're all in on lands. Oh my god, that's so bad. Not hitting the land of the top 3 so we can't cast an axe there. I didn't hit anything either. Thank goodness, we would have definitely died if they hit something that turn. Can only afford to cast one thing. We're definitely not casting Cyclops. It's probably supposed to just be an axe here. But if we make it Witness of Tomorrows, then if we don't hit the land next turn, we can start scrying. I guess we go Witness of Tomorrows. Alright, they missed again. See if we're at the land for Curabest the Sea God. We are at the land for Curabest the Sea God. They can't counter it, but they could exile it. No matter what, we're going to get an 8/8 here. Still a bit worried about the fact that if they play a single enchantment, they've got a bunch of 2-power creatures, so I'm not going to attack in with anything there. They did play an enchantment, but they're going to scoop them up here. Curabest the Sea God's going to be too much for our opponent. Really, really close game. I was getting really worried when we missed that land drop going for the scry into an axe play. I think the play was worth it, but definitely there is that shot that we get punished there, and we did, which was terrifying. Yeah, we got punished not hitting the land, but then luckily for us, our opponent did not have an immediate follow-up. I think if they did, that would have been the turning point there, where our opponent would probably just have lethal on us that turn when I had one blocker out. I guess they wouldn't have had lethal with an enchantment. They would have put us to 1, because they play an enchantment when we had only War Leader out. And they'd have 3 2-power creatures and a 1-power creature, so we block one of the 2s and take 5, go to 1 life. But yeah, we would have died if that happened, because they'd put us to 1, and then it wouldn't really matter. We couldn't make enough blockers to block every single one of their creatures. So yeah, that was terrifying. That was a real aggressive deck there with the stack of Pious Wayfarers, definitely showing off the power of those cards when you've got the Constellation curve. But that'll put us to 4-1. Always happy to get at least 4 wins in these Premier Drafts. That is where the cutoff is to basically break even, getting 1,400 gems out of the event that costs 1,500, but keeping all of the cards you drafted and 3 more packs. So 4 wins or better is always where I like to be, so happy to be there here. Okay, so here we are now in round 6. I'm gonna keep this hand. We have both of our colors. Got an Omen of the Sea, which I like a lot. What we don't have is early game plays. We don't have anything we can play till turn 4, which is definitely scary. But I'm a slow deck. Super possible we just mulligan into another hand that can't play anything early game. So our opponent's on black. They're on mono black so far. Maybe they're on a Grey Merchant of Asphodel deck. A bunch of those Devotion to Black cards. Let's go ahead and Omen of the Sea in the end step here. Scry 2, draw card. Omen of the Forge and Iroas' Blessing are both phenomenal cards. I'd be pretty interested in drawing both of those. So I shall. Now we can Omen of the Forge if we really need to kill the Temple Thief. And if we don't, we can just scry with our Omen of the Sea. I think I'm pretty good to just take 2 for now. We're going to play a 3/3 soon enough. Discordant Piper. Well, now they've got multiple creatures, so one can get through past our 3/3. I think I'm still just jamming out a 3/3 next turn. So let's scry here. I definitely want a 5th land for the War Leaders. Oracle is not bad either, but probably not worth it. Alright, drop the Trickster, and then next turn we just start casting 5-drop, 5-drop, 5-drop. Mire's Grasp. -3/-3 to our 3/3. Pretty good deal. 2 mana to kill our 4 mana card. Mogis's Favor is going to buff their Temple Thief to get extra damage in here. We might want to Omen of the Forge that. I mean, a 4/5 is big enough to block it, right? This is not an enchantment creature, so yeah. And if I shoot Temple Thief, they can just Mogis's Favor. I guess they can't put it on the Piper. I'd really prefer to be at a point where I can play a creature and Omen of the Forge, so maybe I should have kept the 2-drop creature on top, so that I'd be open to doing that. Getting a blocker and blowing up one of their creatures in the same turn. Because yeah, if they just went like land Final Death to kill our War Leader there, that would have been very bad for us. But I suppose now we're open to casting Iroas' Blessing and Omen of the Forge, which is pretty sweet. I could also just play another War Leader, but if I wait a turn, I can play a War Leader and still hold up an Omen of the Forge. But I suppose if I do this, I kind of have to Omen of the Forge the Temple Thief, because now War Leader is an enchanted creature. So Temple Thief just attacks with unblockability. Yeah, and I just Omen of the Forge. They're down to a 2-1. Could be attacking in here, but I'm all about the long game. I'm all about my Mythic Saga. This is probably a mono black devotion deck here at this point. They're just going to pass turn. I like Witness of Tomorrow's a lot when we don't have anything else to do. But if we play Stampede Rider, we can actually afford to just sack Omen of the Forge to scry. I'm actually pretty cool with that. Stampede Rider and to just scry off Omen of the Forge. Actually even just scry first, see what's up. Land and a Deny the Divine. I do like Deny the Divine, but honestly, I'm probably really just trying to dig for our win cons. Like Cure Best the Sea God here. Which could be sketchy, but I will attack with the War Leader now that we can hold a Stampede Rider back to block. So we're dealing 5 here, putting them to 15. Jumping our Stampede Rider, a very happy little satyr. Omen of the Dead is the play. They're going to return something from grave to hand and scry 2. Get their 4 mana 4/3 back to their hand. And scry during our end step. Yep. Smogus' favor, +2, -1. Doesn't kill any of our cards here. They have 5 mana up now, so that is Final Death mana. Exile a creature. And that's what it's going to be, exile the War Leader here. There's Cure Best the Sea God while they're tapped out. They're a mono black deck, so very unlikely to blow up enchantments. Let's do our thing. Pre-combat, so we get the buff on Stampede Rider, send it in. And pass the turn. There's the Nyxborn Marauder from our opponent, and they're going to blow up our Stampede Rider, but we're about to tap their whole board and send in for 8. Alright, tap the board. Send in for 8. Drop a War Leader because it's big enough to kill them. 4 damage. Witness of Tomorrow's being flying is tempting, but it only does 3. And they're going to scoop them up. Best the Sea God shall win another game. 5-1. I'm on a red hand here, but most of our deck is red. We're also not doing anything till turn 4, so those are 2 pretty big downsides. I'm going to go ahead and take the mulligan this time. This hand looks a lot better. Probably getting rid of a Sea Guard, maybe? I like War Leader a lot on 5. I like it more than Sea Guard on 4. Yeah, we go Celebrant into Fateful End, Scry, try to hit those lands. I think I am getting rid of Sea Guard. Careless Celebrant coming onto the board. Deny the Divine. Very good time alongside Fateful End. Because we can cast either when we need to. Hold up the other otherwise. I am going to deny that because that's 2 creatures in 1. If I just spend a removal spell here, they still get a creature out of that. So we'll just deny that. Fateful End their next play and then drop War Leader next turn. Try to keep the aggressive start going. No play this turn, so probably a counterspell of their own, in which case I don't even know if I'm ramming down the Scophos War Leader when they're just going to deny it, so I'll just go Cyclops. This card's played pretty poorly. The inability to block is pretty rough, so they can scoop that right into their Deny Divine. I'm very okay with that. Now our War Leader should definitely resolve. They go for a Starlit Mantle to get +1/+1 hexproof, which is fine. Metamize Prophecy, scry 2, and then eventually they'll draw 2. Take quite some time though. Careless Celebrant is a 1-for-1 trade into the Pilgrim right now, which is not particularly strong, so I'm not going to attack in that turn. I will start sending in the War Leader though. Next turn. So Witness of Tomorrows is what they're going to cast next turn. And this turn they're going to cast a Dreadful Apathy. Still gets to use its ability, which is actually kind of important here. Let's Omen of the Sea and see what we're drawing into. Ragehound and a Mountain. Don't like either of those here. We hit a Nax Hardened in the Forge. That's interesting, because it's going to be a good attacker. They're going to have to cast Witness of the Tomorrows next turn, which means I can kill it during my turn. Yeah, let's cast an Axe here. They have another Deny the Divine? Of course they do. Brutal. Witness of Tomorrows, draw 2 off of the Prophecy. They've got the Starlit Mantle to protect it from my removal I drew into. Things are working out about as poorly as they can here. Yeah, I can't really do much of anything. We're just scrying off of Omen of the Sea now. Again, if I have Roas's Blessing, they just give it +1/+1 hexproof, so I can't kill it with anything. If I had like 1,000,000 mana, I could Iroas's Blessing, and then in response to them giving it hexproof, I can sack Celebrant to do 2 more damage and Fateful End to do 3 before it gets hexproof. I could spend my entire hand to kill Witness. But I don't have enough mana to do that anyway. I need 8 mana. 4 for that, 3 for that, 1 for that. Yeah, we're just on past the turn. It's kind of our only option. Another Heliod's Pilgrim. This is a pretty excellent deck from our opponent. Heliod's Pilgrim is one of the best white commons for sure. The auras in the set are insane. You have counterspell auras like Starlit Mantle, you have removal spell auras like Dreadful Apathy, and then you have just big buff auras like Commanding Presence, +2/+2 first strike, and get a 1/1 every time it damages somebody. Our opponent is playing it very safe here. They're going to hold up the Starlit Mantle mana, rather than going for Commanding Presence. Scry off the Omen of the Sea. Entrancing Liar is a card. They can respond to it with Starlit Mantle, though, so it doesn't actually work. I mean, I guess if I go for the Mantle, or if I go for the Liar, then they respond with Mantle, and then in the future I can throw multiple combat tricks on the Flyer, but that's going to be too late, because we're going to have taken 3, 4, 5, 6 from it in another turn, and they'll have a 1/1. I don't think that's a winning plan. I think like our one winning plan is to just draw into land, Cure Best the Sea God. Even then, it's probably too late this game. Well, there's land. Again, can't kill Witness because of Starlight Mantle. These Pilgrims just value machines this game. Tutoring up outs to everything we have. Commanding Presence the Pilgrim? Do you want to Starlit Mantle your Heliod's Pilgrim then? That is a really weird decision to me. Playing against blue-red? I guess they're playing around a bounce spell? I mean, yeah, I guess Starlit Mantle your Pilgrim and I'll just kill your Flyer instead now. Playing around the bounce spell works really well for me here. Because now I just take 3, still kill the Pilgrim. I guess I need to draw a creature to cast Blessing, so it doesn't actually work that well. Yeah, I guess I can't block this turn. The fact that I need a creature on board to cast Blessing means this is not great for me. I mean, theoretically. Now I get to kill Witness at Tomorrow's. I think that still worked a lot better than if they just Commanding Presence the Witness. So, glad that our blue half is threatening bounce spells against our opponent. They don't have the counterspell. Okay, I was gonna say if they don't have the counterspell, that is the turn where Cure Best the Sea God actually does turn into winning. Because we dealt with the Flyer, so we just... I'm surprised this isn't a double attack. That would shut off Cyclops, guarantee 5 damage and spit out another soldier. Because of Cyclops' ability, I'm just taking this chump. Where Cyclops is never blocking anyway. And we're just chumping until we get a hexproof 8/8, if we can get it. Nope. Very much game. 5-2 it is. That was a rough one there. Very good deck from our opponent. The Heliod's Pilgrims just being incredible Magic cards there. Here we are in round 8 now. We are 5-2, so no matter what happens here, we are making out like a bandit. I'm getting some free gems and all of these cards we've drafted for free. See if we can get another win with Cure Best the Sea God. We've won every game we cast it and lost every game we didn't. We'll see if that record maintains here. Or if we can shake things up and draw into Cure Best the Sea God and still lose. I'm gonna go for Oracle first here. Just because I feel like it this time. Instinctually, I always want to do Celebrant first because I'm never wanting to buff the Oracle in the early game, but they're both just going to do 2 to my opponent anyway. And I'm not going to want to attack him with Celebrant if they play a 2-drop. So I don't know. I don't think it matters a massive amount between these two. Alright, what's going on, opponent? You got Omen of the Forge. Or Omen of the Sea. They probably have one of those two and they're just waiting to cast it during the end step. I'm gonna hope that it's Omen of the Sea and cast Careless Celebrant here. If it's Omen of the Forge, that gets me pretty bad, because now they blow up Celebrant and we don't kill anything with it. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't get me that mad. It's still 1 for 1. But it is very annoying. Ooh. We managed to get rid of it before they drop Wave Break Hippocamp, so they don't get to draw cards off of doing that. That is a very good deal. Problem is, Wave Break Hippocamp is an A+, maybe even S tier bomb. Doesn't look like it because it's a very small body, but when you get to draw a card off of everything you cast, it's very, very difficult to lose from that point on. Strong twice as many cards as your opponent, so our opponent's going to live the card advantage dream here. Even if we counter whatever they cast, they're still drawing a card off of it. I mean, Trickster's big enough to block Hippocamp, so might as well. I doubt they're going to try to cast anything massive during their turn. Never mind. That's not that massive, though. That's fine. I was going to say, if they have any instants, they're definitely going to want to play those so they can draw cards here off of Hippocamp's ability. So I'm just going to keep dumping all my creatures out and save the counterspell for when I'm done dropping everything onto the board. Nadir Kraken. Alright. This is some divine justice. This is just the strict justice for playing a Cure Best the Sea God deck. Because these are very powerful cards. Nadir Kraken is even stronger because you don't have to do any work with it. It just automatically is going to keep spitting out gigantic Krakens and becoming bigger. Well, it doesn't spit out gigantic Krakens, it becomes a giant Kraken. It spits out a bunch of tentacles. I mean, I get to lock down the Kraken, but it's still going to make a bunch of tentacle tokens. Well, this is rough. That is representing an instant here, like a Starlit Mantle or something, which means they'll draw a card off Hippocamp and protect the Kraken from Liar, but I guess I don't have to do it yet. I can attack first. See if we can get them to spend their spell right now. Nope. Or if I go to the end step. Do you want to do it now? Yeah, you do. It's Omen of the Forge. Okay, so it wasn't anything that would protect the Kraken. So there goes our Incendiary Oracle. And they draw an extra card off of Hippocamp. But now they just get a 1/1 every turn to chump block our War Leaders, so we can't really damage them until we start getting Menace. Got Witness of Tomorrow's down as well. No, I would like to keep the Nadir Kraken tapped down. Ooh, Fateful End. We can kill the Hippocamp now, but we don't get to kill their flyer. I mean, sure, right? We just attack with War Leader. Maybe we get some kind of tricksy Fateful End kill here. Okay, that was going to be the most likely, just chump block with a 1/1, because they're going to get one every turn. But yeah, get rid of the Hippocamps, they don't draw any more cards off of it. Omen of the Forge on top. It's not terrible. I mean, I can kill a Tentacle with that to force them into taking a bunch of damage or chump blocking with something more important. We also have the mana to cast the Omen of the Forge and hold up a Deny the Divine. There's a Flummoxed Cyclops from our opponents. I guess they could double block this turn if they want to. Okay, and then I can Omen of the Forge to win. And we're holding up Deny the Divine, and now we just need to try to get this Scophos War Leader to outrace their Witness of Tomorrows, which I kind of need Omen of the Forge on board to sack to give Menace to War Leader to do that, so I don't think I'm scrying. Naiad of Hidden Coves, it's not very good, but also kind of want to make the most of my counterspell and make sure we're keeping their board clear. Careless Celebrant as well. Rough. I was hoping for not 2 creatures in one turn here. I mean, if they double block, they do kill the War Leader. So now that they kill it off of a double block, I don't even know if I give it Menace here. I probably actually keep Omen of the Forge around for now. Single block it is. Definitely drafting these Flummox Cyclops is infinitely lower next draft because their inability to block has been extremely painful. But that's more, I don't know, that's kind of a problem of our deck rather than the card itself. It's probably still good in the right deck, but this is a deck that really, really needs to block. So the fact that my opponent can just be like, boop, no block. Just kind of shits all over me. Down to 6 now. Yeah, no, I think Kraken still gets there, even tapped out. It just wins the race with all these chump blocks. 5, 6. I don't think there's a reason to scry in our upkeep. I can't think of anything that wins it. Because we could scry when we untap, but then we wouldn't have the mana to play anything that would save us, like a Perforos's Embrace or whatever that would deal 4 damage. Or Iroas's Blessing is what it's called. So yeah, we're just dead. Yep, Cyclops can't block at all. They attack with everybody. I block there, take 6. That's lethal. Opponent's deck is very balmy. Nadir, Kraken, and Wavebreak Hippocamp here. I think opponent got to draw 2 extra cards off of the Hippocamp. And of course, Kraken has made a lot of chump blocking tentacles. I guess we're alive for another turn off of that block. Now we're just taking 3. Entrancing Liar has really put in work. Definitely would say draft that card pretty highly. It's a card that's definitely overperformed. We'll go over everything in a moment here when we are finally booted out of the game. That's pretty good. Does not kill War Leader on the spot though, so we're not dead on board. But it does force us into a terrible block. Why won't you block? Okay, that was weird. I don't know how the block got undone. I'm gonna see Island. No thanks. Nope. I was gonna see if we could cast Cure Our Best to Sea God so we could play one game where we cast it and still lost. But did not get there. 5 and 3, it'll be not a bad record at all for the return of Theros, especially since I haven't played Magic in a couple weeks. Definitely some really rusty gameplay today. Some pretty big punts and stuff, but very happy we ended up with the Cure Our Best to Sea God to make up for those misplays during the games today. So 1,600 gems and 4 packs will be the prizes. Really good stuff. We'll take a last look at the deck since we are kind of peeking back into this format. So a lot of my card evaluations are really rusty. So talk about what overperformed and what underperformed. Honestly, most of the deck worked better than I thought it would for the most part. The Flummox Cyclopses were the biggest underperformers by far. It is really easy to make it so these can't block. Attacking with just 2 or more creatures, that is not hard to trigger. I did not think that that ability would come into play as much as it has here. This is a very, very bad blocker. you can basically treat this as just can't block, period, and use that into your card evaluation when deciding whether or not to put it in the deck. So honestly, I think we should have drafted something else over these and had different creatures in here. I think they're probably better than most anything else we could have put in here. We could have put in Eidolons or Revelers or something, which are all very weak and very filler stuff. It's not like we had a very obvious card to swap out for them, but overall those were pretty weak. Underworld Ragehand didn't do much of anything, but I pretty much knew that when I drafted it. It doesn't really look like the kind of card that's going to be sweet in this deck. Nyxborn Seaguard was a little difficult to cast, being the double blue there, and it wasn't the best blocker in the world, so that wasn't super good. Trickster never got a single counter. We don't have a lot of ways to do that, but again, I knew that putting it in, it was pretty filler. We got it very, very late in one of the packs. Just had to put some kind of creature into the deck. All of our non-creature spells were pretty phenomenal. Iroas's Blessing did underperform a tiny bit because there were situations where we were forced to keep a creature out in order to cast this as a removal spell, which we would have much preferred this just be a 4-mana sorcery for 4 damage to something. But it's still a very good card. Fateful End was phenomenal. And Entrancing Lyre, I think that overperformed. I was like, well, we're a pretty controlling deck. We're trying to be pretty slow. We're just trying to draw into Cure Best of Sea Gods, so it'll probably be fine in here. But honestly, with the way it played really, really well. I'd probably run it in almost anything in the format. Definitely not as good as Icy Manipulator. It's way more expensive to get that tapping going on, but once you've tapped it the one time, you just keep it tapped down until your opponent plays a bigger threat, and then you can move it to that one. So Entrancing Lyre was pretty phenomenal. I like that card a lot. So that is going to end today's draft, but as you will have seen if you've been on the channel for a while, we had a pretty big break there due to illness, so I am going to come back swinging with the Theros Beyond Death Premier drafts. We're going to have these videos as close to daily as I can manage, and yeah, we've also got Chromatic Cube coming in a week or two. Those will be really fun, and I will definitely play a lot of those. And then we've got the Baldur's Gate draft set coming in early July, so a lot of great draft sets on the horizon, and I'll be spamming your sub boxes with tons of these videos. Just one a day though. So yeah, stay tuned for all that if you're interested. As always, I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again very soon for some more Magic Arena.